Hey guys, Youthful Yields here. Today we're going to be going over the portfolio for the week. So to start off, a lot of the stock market, I'd say, kind of had a shaky week. So for example, Microsoft went down an insane amount. I think it went down like 12%, 10% in a single day. Looks like it ended the week down about 7.5%. But that was not even close to a couple more honorable mentions. First of all, United Healthcare down 20% for the week. I mean, you got other stuff here, but that's a big one, right? Healthcare as a whole, because of that, they reported earnings and apparently they didn't, beat investors' expectations. So they did have a structure reorganization um, after the events of their CEO. So I believe that's probably why they're suffering. They probably aren't denying as many cases as they were. And yeah, I mean, I didn't read the earnings call, but that's just my best guess. Honestly, I'm not even that worried about that. Excuse me. There was a few other ones. You can see AMD's down 8.5% or almost 9%. Gold. Gold's the big one for me, right? So gold's down quite a bit this last week. You can see the last 5 days. Well, yeah. But honestly, that's also not even that bad. If you look at silver, though, where's like it's like has yeah, silver. You can see this is Friday. It went down 28.5%. 28.5% is abysmal in a single day. That's crazy. And this is not a leveraged ETF. So imagine that. Because there is leveraged ETFs of these. So for example, this is gold on Friday, 30% down. And I want to say it's like 2x lever silver. Let's see if this um I don't know. No, it's like leveraged 2x leverage. So I looked this up on Friday. Um, I should know this. AQ, yeah, AGQ price. Yeah, look at that. It's almost 60%. So for the week, down 55%. Crazy, crazy. And we'll get into how that kind of affected me. Unfortunately, it did. So yeah, we'll get into that. But moving on to the actual portfolio, you can see that 100 actually ended the week up about 40%. Or, well, I wish. 0.4%, I'm sorry. Our portfolio went down about 0.2% as a total, as a whole. Composer down 3%. It was a very bad week for Composer as a whole on my side of the symphony. So, excuse me, M1 Finance up 0.68%, and Webull up 17.89%. Composer really just dragged down the portfolio. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can really do except either, and I was thinking about this other day, if this is going to be kind of my more risky portfolio, I probably should not be allocating so much because right now I think it's about a fourth of my portfolio, which is a bit risky. So, yeah, actually might be a little bit more. I'm not sure. I think it's probably a little bit more. But going on to Composer itself, um, the biggest one you can see, like this best year sort, well, it was holding some gold. And so because of that, I got completely obliterated. The Reigns Concise continued to do pretty poorly the last week. I'll go back to like the 25th. What the heck? Let's do. Why is there. Uh, the 25th. There we go. And is this hidden? What? Man, Their charts are so buggy. Holy. Let's go back last month. You can see it. I think it's this yellow one. No, it's not. I guess it's this one. Anyhow, it just didn't do very well. I guess I always forget this. I can go back here and do um February. Oh my goodness, January 25th. So you can see there it's only down point, or why is that only down? It's down, right? And especially year to date, right? It's also down almost 3.5%. Beam algo took a little bit of a hit this last week. Nothing like insane, but it is down. Nothing insane in terms of that, but this one's down quite a bit. You can see we started at 1,000, now it's only at 820. So that sucks. We have the golden ratio actually did pretty well on Friday, and semiconductors did also decent. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So yeah, there's that, and then there's this. So it really sucks. I really probably I don't know why I put money into these three. I've really just been done with this at this point because really what happened was I have not invested in any of these. I think these two maybe are okay because it's only like 150, 160. Um, the problem is I don't know why I put so much in this, right? I keep telling myself, "Oh, it's a risky portfolio, so let me just put it in dumb things that could make me money," right? This is like I know a broken record at this point, but I really just got to try to change that habit and look for things first of all that have quite a long back test, right? And that was the problem with Reigns Concise is I got into it only a month after it was created. So I'm gonna try to look for that. I'm gonna try to look for stuff that's not like 300% ARR. That's unrealistic in most cases. And in the cases that it is maybe even possible, it's not really my appetite. Right? I don't like 20% days. That's a little bit much for me. So I'm not blaming this algorithm either. It's just not something that I'm really willing to put my trust in. But um, I can use ICDB to find matches for that. So I will probably test my luck on that a little bit later. Who knows? Probably gonna wait a little bit for these to come back up, if anything. Who knows if that's a loser's game, but yeah. Going into the week, though, we can see top was energy. Biggest one there was from Chevron. Then we have consumer staples. Biggest one there was from PepsiCo. And utilities. The biggest one there was from NextEra. I think that's the second week in a row that they've had a pretty good week. In terms of losses, consumer staples, or sorry, consumer discretionary, Costco down. Of course it is, 4%. Then we got semiconductors. The biggest loss there was AMD, as we talked about earlier, 8.5, almost 9%. I'm sorry. And healthcare, the biggest one there was from Eli Lilly. We don't have United Healthcare, thank goodness, because if we did, we'd be crushed. So we actually replaced that with Vertex, and it's been doing very well. I know Vertex isn't exactly a healthcare company, but they're a pharmaceutical company, so it kind of falls under the same sector. So, going to the activity, don't have anything worth noting since the last thing, but going into the holdings, AMD is still actually on top, 115%. Then we got Google at 100%, and then way down there we got RTX at 43%. Biggest losses we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Costco's now back into the red. Procter & Gamble still there. MasterCard and Visa. Again, I talked about that last video. I believe that these are probably going to rotate back up. It's just not really a good time for financials. Fortunately, these two, like, this is very often you hear this about a lot of companies that they're too big to fail, but truly MasterCard and Visa are way too big to fail, right? Because they're literally the biggest payment processors in the entire world. So, you know, I don't think they're going to be bankrupt overnight. And if they did, then we'd have quite a big problem on our hands, given most of the other payment processors actually aren't equipped in a lot of areas, right? So, for example, almost everyone accepts Visa and MasterCard, but stuff like, Discover or American Express specifically is a little bit different because they charge higher fees oftentimes. And so the store owner, for example, doesn't want to actually use those. They don't want to accept those because they don't get to keep as much of the money because they basically have to pay a higher processing fee. My point is I just don't think they're going to be like losing anytime soon, and they're too big to fail. So AMT still down there. I don't know. Eventually, that will either fizzle out or come back up. I don't really know how else to say it, but yeah, I still, we're still doing very well, so I'm not mad. But last but not least, Webull. If we go into the performance tab and go back a week, you can see 3% down, 1%, 4%, and then 20% on Thursday, or 19% basically, and then 9% down. Very good. And I expect tomorrow to be a hopefully really good day as well. Because if you go to BTC price is at 77,544. The last couple days, it's gone down quite a lot. And I will remind you that MSTR's average price, so this is the price right now for that. I think it's like, is it this? No. It's one of these charts. Purchases, right? Their average price is $76,037. So if Bitcoin falls another, 1,500% or even $1,000 at this point, they are in very, very, very big. Yeah, let's just say 1,500. They're in very big trouble, right? Because basically this essentially proves to investors that, okay, well, they obviously have not their return on Bitcoin is way too large. We'll see if actual large scale investors do that, because a lot of people know now that Bitcoin has like the halving cycle, and that's going to take place in, I think, 2028. So if that actually, if they keep that in mind, this might actually be a good deal. But I've been super bear on MSTR because of the halving cycle. It's nothing. Well, I say it's nothing against the company, but it is. But even if you take Michael Saylor out of the picture and you just look at this as a Bitcoin reserve, it's a bad deal to buy right now. I'm gonna wait for it to fall a little bit more if I were to purchase. This is not financial, advice or whatever, but yeah, I would do that, and then when it starts to come back up for the halving, it's gonna explode because basically, yeah, that's just how it's gone, right? You can look it up, BTC like cyclical cycle or cycle. But my point is, you can see their MNAV is like basically non-existent. 1.16. It's just like nothing. Like you could, yeah. So the point is, they're very close to their average price, and this could actually be very detrimental to the company, more so than it's already been. You can see in the last year, according to this, it's down 56%. In the last 3 months, it's down 41%. So it's just a matter of time before, they start to fall to pieces because people are like, not really seeing the dream anymore. For those people that are really into Bitcoin, and I don't mean into Bitcoin because it makes money, but really into Bitcoin, I'm sure they'll see this through. But for me, it's because the halving cycle, and honestly more so because of Michael Saylor, what he's doing, and what he's done. I don't think they're really a legitimate company anyways. I don't think this is really their place. So anyways, guys, that is it for me. And yeah, as always, I wish you guys a wealthy future.